welcome back to BISambition. I'm Amukta, and today I'm joined by a guest host.
Hi, I'm Romaine.
And today's episode is going to be about Oxbridge.
And our guest will be Scott Shepherd.
We got the opportunity to talk to him over Zoom about his studies at Cambridge. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Okay, so now we're here with our guest host, Scott, and he's going to tell us about what it's like to study at Cambridge. So could you please introduce yourself and your course?
Hi, yes, I can. Thank you, Amukta. Hi, I'm Scott. I'm a third-year Japanese and Chinese studies student here at Trinity College, Cambridge. I started in 2019, and these many months later, I am still here enjoying it. And yeah, I'm very happy to be able to talk to you guys about it.
So just to start off, we just want to know what it's like studying there, and also what's your favorite thing about being at Cambridge?
Oh, okay. Well, we had a particularly nice day, on Saturday, and the sunlight just made everything look really beautiful. It just felt like you were in a Studio Ghibli film or like a Victorian drama, and there are many moments where you're reminded and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm actually here, where I wanted to go to Cambridge for a while, and so just sort of there are just times where you'll be cycling past sort of all the old bookshops or just going into your lessons, or I live right next door to a Nobel laureate and I'll just see him once or twice every week or something, and I'm just wow, I'm here. So that's the best way. In terms of what studying is like, I would say it is probably it's probably harder than anything that you've ever encountered before, but it's the next step, right? That's always going to be the way. And that doesn't mean at all that you can't enjoy yourself whilst you're here, because what's work without play, right?
What's social life at Cambridge like? Are there a lot of things to do, or is it more just studying?
So the good thing about Cambridge is, unlike quite a lot of other universities, is there's a college system in the UK that's not particularly common. And so that means that rather than being one student in a body of 12,000 undergraduates, I am one out of 600 undergraduate students at my college. And that means that sort of you're much closer to everyone. The year group at my college is around 200 a year. That's quite like what it was like for me at school. And it's a great size because it means that you really get to know everyone in your college, and it fosters this idea of you do lots of college level societies. So every college has a rowing team, a football team, rugby team, gosh knows how many sports teams. They do amateur dramatics, comedy societies. There's a lot of stuff for people to find their own groove and get into it. So yeah, you can do a lot of things in addition to your degree. I think it's just a case of balance. Obviously, as it gets closer to exams, you're probably going to have to dial down the amount that you're socializing. But because it's legal in the UK to sort of go out and, go to the pub, because all colleges have a bar, it's quite nice. You can do that throughout the terms to sort of go to the cafe in the college, or the bars. You can go to the bar where they announce DNA. That's pretty cool. And you can just sort of socialize and enjoy yourself as a way to relax. So it's really good in terms of, you can strike a good balance.
And so when you were moving from sixth form to obviously university, what was that like? And was the transition really difficult?
So I don't think I personally found the transition very difficult. It felt quite natural, mostly because you're going through it with a bunch of other people as well. So unis in general do a really good job at sort of inviting their freshers in. Most of the time, if you're a fresher student, you'll live in university accommodation, and you'll find it really easy to make friends very quickly. The jump in terms of the work and the pace was a shock for me. I did A-levels, not IB. I did 4 A-levels rather than 3, but even so, it was a lot. But you just kind of would ambushed by so many wonderful things that you kind of just got stuck right into it. So it was, I don't know if it's easy or difficult to adjust per se. It just happens. And for everyone I know around me, it did happen. So I guess that means that it can't be that hard or like an insurmountable challenge. So, you know, everyone's here, everyone's thriving. So, yeah.
We were wondering how does Cambridge nurture competitiveness a lot of the time?
Yeah, so I think Cambridge is the one place where you don't want to nurture competitiveness, because if you think about it, you're taking like the two or the one or the two or the three like brightest students from each school, supposedly brightest students, who are typically going to be quite competitive already. One thing that students can struggle with when they first arrive is this feeling of like a little fish in a big pond, because sort of everyone here did quite well in exams. Everyone here was probably one of the like bookworms in school. So like I think so Cambridge can like I don't know if nurturing competitiveness is the healthiest thing, because we're all the thing that we have to tell ourselves all the time in Cambridge is we all got here on our own merits. Like that's good enough. And once you're here, like you're just trying to do what you think is best. And so I think Cambridge is quite good at promoting that. So for example, if you're like, yeah, I want to do sort of fine in my degree and I really want to like focus on amateur dramatics, you can go into amateur dramatics really well. And you can do stuff like the Footlights, which is a club that produced like a lot of the UK's big names in television. Like, but they may not be doing as well in a maths degree as someone who's like, I'm going to live and breathe maths. So I think the people who succeed most in Cambridge are the people who compete not against others, but maybe just focus on their own goals. And it is really good for fostering that. How it does it, I think it's got a lot of different pathways that you can choose from and societies you can join and like fields you can specialize in within your study. But yeah, so for example, I do Chinese and Japanese. I am not particularly into all the Japanese and Chinese history. So I'm not going to compete in that regard. I just, I'm like, I want to get this knowledge for myself, and that's fine. But then there are other niches in my course, like the modern politics, the international relations, and then like the linguistic side, where that's where I want to strive. So, it's just everyone finds their own, like, their own things that they want to really focus on. And I think that's a testament to sort of the facilities they provide to let you do that.
And so would you say that if needed, you'd have like good well-being support at such a large university with so many people?
Yeah, again, the college system is very helpful for this because the colleges are old, right? And because they've been around for so long, they've had time to accrue a fair amount of cash. And so that means that I think every college basically has their own counselor. And if you go to a college like mine, if the counselor doesn't have enough availability, I know Trinity will pay for a private counselor if you'd like that. They do every week. There's like a welfare tea to go and do that. There's like to socialize. You can always go talk to, most colleges have a chapel. The person who leads the chapel I know at our college is technically a Christian priest, but he's there for all faiths, all denominations, and just assistance of everyone. And he buys us donuts every Wednesday. Like,
that's so
it's just yeah. So it's like there's a lot of help if you need it. I think there's a lot of help if you need it. I think the one thing which a student has to do is ask, and sometimes that can be the hardest part. But once you ask and once the ball is rolling, thankfully for a lot of people I know, the like support systems in Cambridge have been quite robust and quite helpful. So I know a lot of people who are really grateful for the university. The university itself, the like wider thing, also offers counselling and disability support and like learning difficulty support. So there are lots of people out there to help you. The reason why you have to go ask is because once you get to university, you are obviously legally an adult, and so like it has to be your move. But after that, they're there to take good care of you. So yeah.
You mentioned different like support for people with learning disabilities, things like that. Is there support for things like international students as well? Or I know that you're not an international student, but
well, yeah, I mean, I did travel from Dubai. I am British though, so I am a home student, and so at Trinity we have a lot of international students. For a Cambridge college, around 40% of our students are not from the UK, which is quite high for a British university and or higher education institution. We have so we have a students' union at every college, and we have an international students representative. I know that they get to come to the university a week earlier, and they get some help and assistance with regards to setting up life in the UK, like opening a bank account, getting a phone number, because those can be really difficult. I don't know why, and I don't know if it's particularly different in many other countries, but I know it's just really hard in the UK to set up a lot of this stuff sometimes. So the internet, the overseas officer is always there. They do. There are lots of societies as well. There's a Cambridge Emirati Society or a Cambridge UAE Society. So, like, if you really miss the desert, you can go to that, and it's quite nice. And yeah, so there is support for international students. It's not like it's just like it's because unlike in the UAE, international students are not the majority. It might just not be kind of the same level of like support that we're used to in the UAE, but it's still pretty good. And I mean, some people, I think one of the biggest complaints I've heard is just like, it's like, oh, the food in hall is quite British. So, like, yeah. I should point out with COVID, obviously with the travel restrictions, there was a limit to what college could do to help people because that was at government's mercies. Like I remember like flights were shut down in the first lockdown, and so people found it difficult to go home. But in those periods, like colleges adjusted, they let people stay over the breaks, like rent their rooms out. They did change on the fly to try adjust to people's needs in the moment. And so, yeah.
And you've been mentioning how your college is like a really vital part of your lifestyle at Cambridge. So could you speak a little bit more about how you like chose Trinity and like just about the college system in general?
Yeah, I mean, so every college has a stereotype, and like, and a lot of people say with Cambridge and Oxford, like your college choice doesn't matter. I would say not really, but it does. I don't consider myself a Cambridge student as much as a Trinity student, and most people would consider the same with their college because you live in your college. Your friends are mostly in college. I chose Trinity because I couldn't actually make it to the university-wide open day. I just went to an open day at Cambridge. It happened to be at this college. I happened to get to meet some of the teaching staff and see the buildings, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And it was from that point onwards, I was just like, okay, I know I want to apply here. So that's how I chose. You can choose for. There are reasons you can and can't choose a college for. They're not official, but as in, I wouldn't worry about the level of teaching that you're going to be provided with, general access to services and stuff. Don't worry about that. You go more on like the feel. If you want a college with a big cohort like mine, go to apply to a bigger college. If you want a college with a lot of international students, that's something to look at. If you're really into a specific sport and a college has a good sports team for that, go for that. But like, yeah, those are the kind of reasons that you apply for colleges, or you like the buildings. Liking the buildings is a perfectly fine one. So yeah, there's you can kind of choose for any which reasons. I chose mine because it was the first one I saw, and they always say that the first one you see is often the one that you're like fall in love with. So that's what happened.
Since we're talking about like the application process, we're going to go back to when you applied. Do you have any like tips to boost your application, things like that?
Yeah, so obviously the year 13s, they can no longer apply. So the Oxbridge deadline is early. It's the same as the MEDIC deadline for the UK. It's October 15th. So what I would say is if they haven't started already, like read, even if you're a science student, even if you're a math student, I know it sucks, but read what you can, or just show like a great interest in the subject that you're applying for. Unlike, for example, in the States with like an application to Harvard or Stanford or Ivy League, basically Cambridge are really concerned in the application about why you want to do this specific subject, and being a well-rounded individual is a plus, but they're taking you in to study this thing quite intensely for 3 or 4 years, so they're focused on that. So yeah, read around your subject. I would say draft your personal statement. I don't know when the deadline's at like the BSAD are, but like just keep on revising it, drafting it, and take note of like the admissions assessment dates. The important things about interviews is you don't have to worry about getting stuff wrong. The interview is not testing your intelligence, it's testing how easy you are to teach and what it would be like teaching you. So a funny story from my interview is I got the name of a very important figure in Japanese history wrong in it, who I had written about. I got the name correct in my personal statement, but I'd given the wrong name in the interview and they corrected me, but we just had a laugh. And it's sort of this, you need to demonstrate that you're like, willing to, what'll happen is, say you're a math student and they'll be like, okay, show me your lines of reasoning to think like how this sum would come up with this answer. And if you come up with the wrong answer at first, they'll try give you a new piece of information and they want to see how you respond to that. And basically the best thing you can do is just be receptive to their comments rather than like stick to your guns, because they usually know what they're talking about. So they just want to be like, they want to see like, as a student, how quickly can you learn? How good are you at taking on the new information? So read lots, be receptive, and take note of the deadlines. A lot of people miss the deadlines, and that's why their applications fall down. And it's just a real shame, because if you want, you don't want to waste any of your application spaces on UCAS, right? You've only got 5. And it would be a shame for it to be a fall down based on like I didn't know there was a test I needed to apply for. There aren't many, but so because there aren't many deadlines, it's important to know them all. So yeah.
And so that's actually what our next question was going to be about the interview, but just in general, do you have any tips on how to prepare for it?
Lots and lots of practice. I am a very confident person in general, like sometimes too confident, but that was not an issue for me. I think it's just a case of despite you can be confident or not confident, they're used to people having nerves. It's a very important day in many people's lives, like when they're applying for stuff at sixth form. Oftentimes whether or not you get the interview letter is like, it feels like the be all and end all in that moment. It actually isn't, but like it's just a sort of be you. Don't think that they're going to try trip you up. They don't try trip you up. I remember, because I was applying for the Japanese studies, but one of my interviewers actually lectured in Persian and Arabic, and I was petrified because I had done Arabic at GCSE and I'd since not studied it much, and I was like, they're going to ask me to speak in Arabic. They didn't. Like, they're not going to try trip you up. So don't worry about that. You'll be fine. It's just kind of go in with the mentality of hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And, it's not the be all and end all. Ultimately, it's just 20. Many people will have 2 or 3 interviews, but each interview is only like half an hour long. So, you can just sit in it and think like, oh, wow, this is like an opportunity that, a lot of people want to have, and just sort of, dwell on that rather than like oh my gosh, is my button right on my shirt? Oh, I said one word wrong. Oh, I stuttered once. Like, it's fine. They're used to that. So, yeah.
That's sort of reassuring, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
And so we were thinking about like the application process, but just to end off, what is next for you? And like, have you been applying to internships, and what kind of like pathway has Cambridge given you for the future?
With regards to like internships and jobs and stuff, I don't know what I'd like to do, but I always knew that was going to be the case. And that's just because I think I would be generally happy going into a multitude of different things. The societies that Cambridge offer you really can help like boost interest in pathways that you never thought that you would go into. So for example, there was a person in a few years above me who did Japanese and Chinese, who was really into video games, and she got a job offer at Sega in Japan because they were like, oh, you speak Japanese and you like video games. So her degree was, she was analyzing like ancient literature and, you know, speaking the language, but she's now getting to work with video games every day. Like, you just get to do what I think it's good because it can provide you with a lot of transferable skills. In terms of internships and the like, I've applied for a relatively, like, it sounds, you know, it's the more corporate route, but that's because that was always something I would be quite interested in. But I'm also looking at teaching because I've always liked teaching. I think rather than necessarily changing my mindset, Cambridge has given me sort of tools to apply to places. I think an important thing to bear in mind, though, is the workload at Cambridge can be quite intense, and you're not meant to do like absolutely everything. It's quite different to A-levels and IB. At uni in general, you cannot do physically everything that is not maybe expected of you, but you just cannot do everything related to your course. There's not like a specific syllabus that you follow. And so if you need to make sure to take time out for your socializing, and you need to make sure that you take time out for like career growth or professional growth if those don't go hand in hand with the socializing. So yeah, just be wary that because it can be quite intense, you just sort of, it's not like opportunities might pass you by, but it's just, you might not think to be like, oh, I'll go to a careers fair or I'll talk to the careers counselor or whatever. So they have all the resources and you could achieve whatever you want to achieve here. I should point out as well, if you're at Cambridge, a lot of the colleges as well will finance, like they will do finances and grants for research projects that you do. If not as an undergraduate, they'll help finance master's studies in it. So like, if you want to go into academia, which a lot of people in Cambridge do want to go into, they'll support you with that too. The alumni connections are very helpful as well, because it's just like a point of contact. You can ask them about the next step, just as how you guys are asking me about your next step. So, you know, in general, there's many different ways of going about what you want to do next in life. I don't know what I want to do next in mine, but I'm thoroughly enjoying the ride, and so I don't much mind.
Do you have any like final like tips for anyone who's planning on applying?
I would say visit. If you can, visit Cambridge or Oxford or the unis in general. You do. I've heard a few people say that you don't necessarily get a great feel for the place only being there for a few hours. I strongly disagree. A, because I found out my college just because I came here and I was not disappointed. But B, also, you really do just get a gut feeling as to whether or not you feel like you'd fit in a place. So I had a few friends visit me last week, and they were from school, and they've since gone to different universities. One of them is in London and one of them is at another university elsewhere in the UK. And they were like, this is really pretty, but I just don't feel like this would be where I'd be most comfortable. Whereas I had the opposite feeling. And on paper, if you just go by like rankings, if you just go by like what I say, for example, you're not going to know how you fit in a place. So this just applies to any uni in general. If you can, visit. If not, talk to a student from there if you can. But bear in mind, we're all like different people. Yeah. And also, if you do apply anywhere, apply to Trinity. We're apparently the place where creme brulee was invented in England. So like, it's good. So
rooting for your own college. Just little
exactly. Yeah, I've always got to plug it, right? Look, I'm even wearing the shirt. So yeah.
But that's it. Thank you so much for being such an amazing guest on this episode. That was some really helpful information. And to those who are listening, thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.